Anish Giri's hallucinating in our blunder of the week, but Magnus Carlsen still leads in Bilbao. Peter Dawkers brings us the full update. He wins Dortmund with a round to spare, breaks 2,800 for the first time, and is now ranked number 2 in the live rankings. Mike Klein tells us why Maxime Vachier-Lagrave is the hottest chess player on the planet. And we once again dive into the controversial issue that is the gender gap in chess, this time asking Alexandra Botez for her opinion on the matter and how we might fix it. ChessCenter, it's what the cool kids watch these days. Who knew, Robert? Silvio Danilov is capable of more than just controversial chess politics. He might even produce a brilliancy from time to time, as he did on the board this week, shocking the world when he took down the much higher rated, nearly 2,700 Julio Granda. In this position, after a theoretically relevant Catalan, he played a very strong move and went on to roll his opponent. Tell everybody what that was and what you think of Danilov's play.
Well, unlike Lawrence Trent, who doesn't seem to be getting any better working with Fabiano Caruana, Silvio Danilov clearly has learned a thing or two from Veselin Topalov. Here, down 2 pawns, he went e4, breaking in the center, forcing the bishop off the d file over to a8. And after bishop a8, rook takes a7, rook c7, he said, you know what, I want more pieces on the board so I can attack them. Brought his rook back with rook a2, and after queen c8, bishop f4, well, black was in all sorts of trouble, Danny, losing material on the spot.
Yeah, the rook doesn't have any good squares. The pony's popping into b5. We got real issues if we're Granda. After bishop c6, Chopalicious on c7 and e5, we get a very nice tactic to finish the job with the move knight to d4, trapping a bishop in the middle of the board, taking advantage of a pin. I saw this game. This is a miniature, Robert, if you count 20 moves or less. I had my mind blown by Danilov, and let's hope he keeps this habit up, maybe staying out of politics for a while and keeping us happy on the chessboard.
Hi all, this is Peter reporting from Bilbao, Spain. We're in the Basque country and in fact also in the region with the highest density of Michelin star restaurants. Well, it means that the restaurants I can afford also have a pretty decent quality. I'm reporting after the 8th round of the Bilbao Masters, and it's Magnus Carlsen in the lead, 13 points out of 8 games. Hikaru Nakamura on 10 points. Reminder, it's the football scoring system, so it means 3 points for a win and 1 point for a draw. And it also means that Carlsen has as many wins as the rest of the field combined. He lost that first round game to Nakamura, first loss to the American ever in classical chess, but then he won 3 games in a row, and Nakamura himself, he only drew the remainder of his games. In fact, it means Nakamura is the only undefeated player at the moment, but yeah, behind Carlsen. And then in 3rd and 4th place we find Wesley So, normal tournament for him, and Wei Yi, which means excellent result actually for the Chinese. And it got a comment from Carlsen, who said that Wei Yi so far is playing very well and is deserved participant in this tournament. And then there's Sergei Karyakin. He lost 1 game to Carlsen and drew the rest of his games, so not great so far. And 2 of his white games were drawn very quickly, so maybe hiding the repertoire he will use for his match with Carlsen is leading to not so great results, especially with white. And then we find Anish Giri in last place, not in great shape. He lost 2 games and drew the rest. This week I have 2 clips. One is from the rest day, when the 6 players played in a giant chess game where the pieces were actually school children from local schools. And yeah, they played quite a funny and long game. And it was a very nice view, especially for the media. There were a lot of media coming to film this. And then there was something else quite interesting also in this tournament. In the 7th round, Hikaru Nakamura and Wesley So played their game wearing a Fitbit Blaze. It was a bit of an experiment by the organizers. They were measuring their heart rate and their energy usage, and yeah, maybe it's something for the future to do at more tournaments to see what a game of chess is doing to the pulse of chess players. And I have comments from both players on this experience.
I noticed that my heart rate was never really going up 100, or at least when I look into it. I'm not sure how high it went at the highest point in the game, but you know, I don't mind wearing it at all. I mean, if it if it can give other people an idea of how chess players' heart rate is affected during the games.
I think if you have games which are very double-edged with a lot of counterplay for both sides, you're likely to see spikes. And I think when you see spikes, that is going to prove that that in chess, a lot of it also is mental. A lot of it is about the stress that you put on your opponent. And I suspect that if you look at the players in their games when they play against Magnus, for example, their heart rate is probably higher. So I don't know if they're going to test that or not, but that's just a theory I have.
All right, that was it for me for this week. We'll see next week what happens in the last two rounds of this tournament, and of course in other major news stories. So see you next week.
Well, he claimed hallucination at the board, Alexandra, but whatever reasons Anish Giri wants to cling to as far as how and why he blew a completely equal ending against Chinese Grandmaster Wei Yi, the point is that he did, and round 6 in Bilbao just did not go the Dutchman's way. I'm going to let you take the wheel here and say what the blunder was that Giri played and exactly how Wei Yi should have taken advantage of it.
The first blunder he played was g5. A very aggressive move, but it allows for c4. The idea behind this being that the black bishop is trapped, black's king is tied to white's pawns, and it splits the board in two here. So one variation that this could have continued with is if black would have tried king d4 here. This allows for white to create a passed pawn by pushing e6. After f takes e6, f takes g5, and now white's going to queen, and even though black has more pawns, it's really the queen that decides the fate of the game here. Interestingly enough, though, Wei Yi decided to return the favor and blundered back by playing king f3.
Yeah, return the favor he did, and gave Giri one more chance to hold on, right? If Giri had found the move c4 here, preventing white from splitting the board, as you pointed out very well, the game is probably still a draw. But instead, Giri gave the blunder right back. It's blunderfest there in Bilbao, and played the move king e6, voluntarily walking in to the same idea. You didn't have to ask Wei Yi twice. He played the move c4 with no hesitation, splitting the board, trapping the bishop, and essentially turning this into what is a king and pawn ending, where white is just up an extra pawn. That's pretty much how the game continued with, I wouldn't say any 1200 could convert with the extra g-pawn, but maybe any 1500 could do it. And as Wei Yi marched up the board, Giri simply threw in the towel. At the right time, the white knight will simply release the bishop and come in to help punch this pawn forward. So we can never root for more blunders, but we can root for more interesting moments to talk about on ChessCenter, and Giri gave us all that we had asked for here this week in Bilbao. We bring in FIDE Master Mike Klein as one of our amazing chess journalists to talk about all the big events happening. But Mike, first thing I got to ask, what's with the beard?
Good question, Danny. I'm not shaving until we find out where the World Championship's going to be. Let's talk about some current events that just finished up. Over in Dortmund, Kramnik was going for his 11th title, but he was denied once again by the hottest chess player on the planet, the new world number 2, Grandmaster Maxime Vachier-Lagrave. Actually had more wins than draws. 4 wins, 3 draws. He won by a point and a half with 1 round to go. Got to take it easy on that final day. MVL is now up to 28-11. He has not lost a single classical game in the year 2016.
That's an amazing thing to boast. Nobody else can boast that. Now, he's not playing chess as quite as well as Maxime Vachier-Lagrave, but Ian Nepomniachtchi is also playing very well. Tell us how he finished at the Hainan Danzhou Classic.
That's true, Danny. He only won by 1 point. Of course, this was a fuller length tournament, a 9-rounder. Although 7 of Nepo's 9 games finished decisive, he had 5 wins and 2 losses. Here's a funny stat, Danny. Half the field actually finished with fewer losses than the winner. But no matter, 5 wins will win you a lot of events. Nepo is now in the top 20 in the world for the first time ever. He leapfrogged over a dozen other competitors, and he beat 4 Chinese players along the way, so I'm sure they're going to be happy to see him take his flight home.
Yeah, amazing stuff. And certainly the Bilbao scoring system tells us people want to see wins and losses. So Nepo is rewarded for his aggressive, decisive play. Speaking of decisive, Jeffrey Zhang cannot be stopped right now. He dominated the U.S. Junior this year, didn't he?
He did. He ended up finishing clear first over international master Wonder Liang. It's his first U.S. junior title, and in fact, he made a lot of people happy. Let me tell you why. He was already going to qualify for the next U.S. championship by rating. So by taking the automatic qualification spot with him, that essentially frees up another rating spot to some grandmaster that might not have qualified. So Kobian, Alejandro Ramirez, somebody owes Jeffrey Xiong some dinner. And that's the story from St. Louis. I will, of course, be there in 2 weeks for the Sinkfield Cup.
A lot of fringe grandmasters very happy to see Zhang on the rise, and a lot of fringe chess enthusiasts love watching your news updates on Chess Center. Mike, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you, Danny.
Robin, when Grandmaster Mateusz Bartel sat down against Deep Sengupta, things got crazy. How nutty? We're talking nutty Professor Nutty here. Tell everybody what Mr. Sengupta played here to push this position over the crazy limit it had already reached, and get us to the move of the week he played that was just absolutely incredible to keep the attack alive and make sure White's king had nowhere to run.
Well, Danny, both players would have made Eddie Murphy, Sherman, and Papa Cletus proud with this crazy performance. Black went knight a6, hitting that rook on c5. After rook takes e5, knight b4, bishop b1. Here is really where the move of the week occurs. Pawn to h3, opening up the entire board. If g takes h3, the f2 and the f3 squares are very weak. If rook takes, the bishop on c8 will be opened up to win material. So instead, White simply ignored it by going bishop takes d4, knight takes e5, knight c takes e5, and it's getting even crazier. Queen d6, White castles, and after f takes e4, bishop takes e4, well, Black bailed himself out with rook takes f3.
Yeah, but as we analyzed later, it seems that rook takes f3 was actually a missed opportunity, right? As exciting as this looks to sacrifice the exchange to go up a clear piece, further analysis, and in this game, Bartel was able to bail himself out with the move queen to b3 check, and we saw that this lack of development was key and letting White find an eventual perpetual check. So tell everybody what the principled move was that Black should have played instead of this early sacrifice to ensure that our Move of the Week award didn't go wasted.
Well, here Black had the option to go bishop f5, developing the bishop, connecting the rooks, and after queen b3 check, which looks scary, bishop e6, queen c3, rook a d8, and now bishop c5 looks like a skewer, but here's where the engine is so dangerous. Rook takes f3. Sacking the rook now is the right time because e5 falls, and with it, White ends up on the losing side of the position.
Yeah, this is amazing to see this sacrifice come just a few moves later than it was played to prevent Mr. Deep Sengupta to, well, he would have been rolling in the deep right alongside Adele, and this combination with rook takes f3 is enough to make your mama clap Hercules. Too bad he didn't find this exact move order, but it's still a game worthy of our Move of the Week because we love that h3 move. Well, here's what everyone's talking about this week, Alexandra, as the New York Times published an article highlighting, or I should probably say exposing further, the gender gap issue that exists in our game. We have a problem in chess, for young ladies that is, as they get better and they follow their dreams toward becoming masters and title players. They start looking around the rooms and seeing less and less females playing chess alongside them. So as someone who's probably more qualified to speak on this issue than just about anybody we've ever had on Chess Center as a talented female chess player, maybe you can give your opinion on exactly what is the severity of the gender gap issue in chess. Is it a big one? And if so, how would you suggest fixing it?
The gender gap at upper levels is definitely severe. But what I find interesting is studies that show at early ages, so elementary school, middle school, there's actually a close number of boys and girls in the chess club, but as they start to approach their high school years, there's a leveling off effect where you see a lot of girls dropping out. In terms of thinking about how to address this gender gap in chess, I think an interesting approach is to help girls with training programs, especially in the earlier years. There's one side where we already have segregation in events, we already have female titles, we already have girls getting better invitations because of the fact that they're female, better invitations than a guy who is a lot higher rated than them.
Right.
And I think this is both beneficial and harmful. Beneficial, of course, because it's adding incentive for girls to play, an incentive which I think can be added in different ways as well, and hurtful in the sense that you get a lot less respect if you have a female title or if you're playing in the girls section of an event. Because of this reason, one of the things that was most helpful to me when I was younger was events like the Susan Polgar Girls Invitational, where it's focused on training, where it's focused on education and meeting other girls in the game, and it's trying to help you get better rather than to give you incentives of, here's a free flight and extra money to come play in this event because we need more females to play. I think the best thing in the long run is if you start helping girls out by training them earlier on, helping them become good enough to play in these open events. It's going to take a lot of time, I think, but I would see this as a direct way. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's a fascinating angle. Honestly, of all the things we've heard argued, I think we've heard the argument from the top down, as you sort of touched on, right? The female-only tournaments, the female titles, are they good, are they bad? And I think you hear a lot of people arguing, like what you pointed out, the beneficial and harmful aspects of each one of them. But this interesting idea that we should be using the extra resources we have, not to reward, as you say, a female exclusivity, but maybe to invest in young players and teach them that they can be as good as they need to be to compete at the highest level in the open events, alongside the infamous Polgar sisters and all the other top female players in history. So I like that angle. It's a controversial issue. We already know that, but we're not afraid to open the door. And we'll do that right now to our members and ask them what they think. I'm sure that a lot of people have opinions. A lot of chess coaches on our site, a lot of chess players, both female and male. We'd love to know what people think. What are the best ways to keep girls playing chess? And do you like Alexander's idea of shifting the gear of where we're putting these resources for women playing chess and maybe helping to keep them playing right at that leveling off point, as you said, right? To prevent them, sort of being prophylactic in our approach and preventing them from dropping out by giving them the opportunities like you had with Susan Polgar. So awesome stuff. Thanks for the opinion, and we look forward to what our members have to say on the matter, too.
Hello, Chess.com, and welcome to our new segment, The Real McCoy. Are we not doing the special effects? Oh, there we go. So I'm here to talk to you a little bit about what's on my mind. You may have recently noticed Carissa Yip showing up as a veritable tsunami against the shores of the U.S. Women's Championship. You may have also seen Praggnanandhaa, who became the youngest IM in history. More importantly, recently I lost to a young child who was toting a teddy bear in the playing hall and getting juice boxes on the regular from his mother. So I'm forced to ask this question with you. Where are all these kids coming from? And there are the normal answers. Oh, engines are making players better earlier. The internet is spreading the accessibility of the game. Or maybe storks are showing up with packets of opening theory and dropping them off at the doorsteps of freshly born babies. But here's one possible solution you might not have considered: the Flynn effect. Now, the Flynn effect is the measurable increase of intelligence over decades, as discovered by social psychologists. Now, it may be inconceivable for you to think that the human race is getting smarter, particularly after watching your cousin's Facebook posts. But please remember that it wasn't more than a few generations ago that young meteorologists were sacrificing virgins in hopes of changing global weather patterns. So the important thing to note here is that the next time you might be losing to a child, keep in mind that it could be that you don't just suck at chess. I mean, you might suck at chess. That's a good explanation. But it could also be that you're playing a mutant from the future.
It's time for Time Trouble. Mike, why don't you bat lead off this week?
I'll do it, Danny. The 9-hour Memorial just concluded with more than 24 2600s playing. Is this the most important chess export to come from Poland?
What about the Chess.com live server built from scratch by the godfather himself from Poland? That man is Piotr. Tiger Hill at Pearson is set to play a Go and chess hybrid match against Alexander Morozevich. Who you got in that one?
Well, we all know Moroz got him by a little bit in rating on chess, but I have personally watched Tiger play online Go in between the rounds of a chess tournament. I think it's going to be interesting. There was a surprising winner at the Swiss Championship when a 19-year-old IM beat out such luminaries as Yannick Peltier. Surprising winner for you, Danny?
If an 81-year-old can win the Swiss Championship, a 19-year-old certainly can. We miss you, Korchnoi. Now, Mike, North Carolina just beat South Carolina in the Battle of the Borders chess match that you guys do annually there. How proud are you of your home state for this one?
Danny, honestly, I don't know if you follow the news lately politically, but we need something to be proud of, so we gave it to them good with a pie in the face. We got to beat South Carolina. Jennifer Shahadi just finished about 200th in the World Series of Poker main event, bagging 43 grand. Danny, why aren't chess players dominating the poker scene more?
Well, what about Dan Harrington, right? He was a chess master, if I recall correctly. I think we've had a few good Cinderella stories there, and congratulations to Jen. Finally, Mike, a GoFundMe project was started to get Peter Svidler a better microphone for when he's traveling, doing those Blitz banter videos that we all love. Is this the best way to raise money on the internet?
Could be, but you know what? I prefer eBay. Recall that a few years ago, somebody put the entire country of Belgium for sale. Of course, the winning bid inherited a fractured parliament and 300 million euro debt. So a little bit of a bittersweet win there, Danny.
Always a gamble when you rely on internet users to help you with anything. Though we do love them watching ChessCenter. We thank them and thank you once again, Mike. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, Danny.
We were shocked this week to see a huge win he had over the much higher rated, what's his name?
Julio Grande.
Okay, got to restart. Good talk, Danny.
Wei decided to give Geary another chance and blundered himself by playing King F6.
This move is...
Go ahead.
You said it. All right, let's redo it. That was actually really good. There were just a couple of verbal... Everyone better buckle up because today's move of the week, Robert, is just absolutely insane. It's nutty. How nutty? We're talking nutty Professor Nuts right now. We have Mr. Restart. How nuts? We're talking nutty Professor Nutty here. When Mr. Mateusz, I am not going to be able to say that guy's name. Mateusz.
You got it.
Mateusz. All right, restart. Because as we can see, the pin on the knight is critical to the queen on c3.
Hercules!
I love that. You look so cute.
I'm just making Mama proud.
Well, Mike, problem once again, we were too smooth. No bloopers for us.
Really? Means we got to do more? Oh.
Well, here's what everyone's talking about this week, Alexandra, as the New York Times published an article highlighting, or I should probably say exposing further, the gender gap issue that exists in our game. Not she. Let me do it again. Let me just restart. Hold on. Well, once again this week, Alexandra, we're going to dive into a very controversial, very commonly debated topic in chess, but for once we actually have someone who's maybe very qualified to talk about the subject, and that's yourself. I don't even know. Okay, I need to redo it. Hold on, that wasn't good. What about the Chess.com live server built from scratch by the architect Piotr from Poland himself? Now, okay, hold on. We got to restart. I completely forgot what the topics were.
Okay.